Hello and welcome. This is Bree Stedman, host of Own Your BS, the podcast, where your negative head talk and the bullshit stories you tell yourself become irrelevant, and solution focus creates a path of emotional confidence, clarity, and control.
Hello and welcome to episode number 22 of Own Your BS, the podcast. I'm actually very, very excited about this week's episode, mostly because this particular topic is something that almost every single woman I have ever worked with has experienced a challenge in. Not only that, it's something that I have experienced time and time again, and I often hear it talked about in social media, in conversations with friends, even on TV. It's something that is prevalent for most women nowadays. And that particular thing is guilt. Now, what has led me to sharing this particular topic on this podcast is, of course, an experience that I have been going through recently. And I like to sort of let you in on what's happening in my life for a couple of reasons. One, because I am a big believer that no one is perfect. Not even the most enlightened and empowered people on the planet have their shit together all of the time. And because of that, I never, ever, 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 ever want to get to a point where I paint a picture of having my life sorted out all of the time. Granted, my life is a whole lot better now than what it was, a few years ago when I was crazy psycho mama and feeling like a fake and a fraud and all of the rest of it. However, I'm still a human being with life challenges. And as a result, things still knock me off centre every so often. The point of difference is I like to use those examples as opportunities to inspire, educate, and lift other women who might be going through similar kind of challenges. So recently, it's not recently, this has been an ongoing challenge that we have had with our particular children for as long as I can remember. So you may have heard me speaking about in the past, the fact that both of our children are ADD, ADHD. Blair has some other diagnoses and he often presents with behavioural challenges and with hyperactivity, and he's very loud and, sort of over the top and in your face with his behaviour and things. Olivia, on the other hand, is almost the opposite end of the spectrum. She's more quiet, she's more reserved, and her challenges are a little bit more intellectual. So much, much harder to diagnose, much harder to understand, and to a degree also more challenging to support because we don't really know what works or what won't work. So we're kind of just trying everything. Anywho, over the last couple of months, we've been looking at the way that she processes the world around her, and it's becoming more and more clear that she has executive functioning challenges. So over the past few weeks, we've been working with an amazing OT who is implementing some systems to help us support her. And what I've noticed while we've been putting these things in place is that my head talk has become quite loud and almost guilt-driven. Now, I say almost guilt-driven because I have a very good relationship with guilt now. I don't actually associate with that emotion. And I know for many of you, you might find that hard to believe, particularly if you are caught up in guilt. So please remember, this is only because I have worked on myself a lot, extensively, with Creatrix. And I do believe that the stem of any guilt issues that I had have been addressed. And I know that to be true because, I just don't feel it. However, with that being said, I still have the head talk dialogue that could trigger guilt if I allowed it to. Now, for me, in regards to this situation with Olivia, what I noticed my head talk has been saying recently have been things along the lines of past-driven thoughts. So if only I'd been able to carry her to term, if only her birth hadn't been quite so traumatic. Olivia was born with a lot of facial bruising and she birthed, capillaries in her eyes. She had red eyes and her whole face was bruised and she was jaundiced, and she just had a really, really hard time, the poor little darling. And so because we've now got these sort of intellectual challenges, my thought processes over the last few weeks have been, if only I had done something different. Maybe if I'd been able to hold her safer within me for a little bit longer, her brain might have matured a little bit better before she was delivered early. If I'd been able to pick up on her challenges earlier on and given her support earlier on, maybe it wouldn't be quite so extensive now. So a lot of regret-based thoughts have been going on in my head in regards to the challenges that Olivia's experiencing right now. And that led me to think about the nature of guilt. And what I identified, or what I've started to sort of pick up on, is that guilt tends to run on a timeline. We either have thoughts that are based from past actions that trigger guilt for the here and now, such as, if only I had done something differently, like with me, if only I had carried Olivia to full term. Or we have thoughts that are more future-based that trigger the guilt for now. So again, if I'm going to use myself as an example, the follow-on from that, if only I had done something different then, is, well, I need to do everything that I can now to support her now so that in the future she's not left out. So in the future she doesn't feel less than. So those thoughts are more future-driven, but they could trigger guilt for now because you are undertaking actions to compensate for future fears. So with both of these thoughts, like I said, they're very past-based or future-based thoughts, but the common denominator on both of them is guilt. Now, because I am passionate about helping you to better understand your head talk and the corresponding underlying emotional current, what I encourage you to do, if you recognize that guilt is an issue for you, is to firstly recognize that in order for anything to change in regards to any emotion or any story that you are buying into, you need to be aware of it and you need to own it as your own. Because you are ultimately creating this story, therefore you are the only one who can change it. So in regards to your guilt, what I'm going to encourage you to do is start listing those thoughts out on a piece of paper, just like what I've been doing over the last few weeks. I've been paying attention to the thoughts when I get stuck in my head. I've been listening to them, I've been recognizing them, and then I've been doing something to release them. And I'm going to share with you what I've been doing to release those thoughts so that the guilt cannot connect to it. So I want you to start listing down those exact thoughts that you are saying to yourself when you start to feel guilty. If they are past-based thoughts, when you have them down on that piece of paper, what I want you to do is look at every single one of those thoughts that you've written down and then ask yourself this one question. Can I change it? Can I change what happens then now? Now, if the answer is yes, I can change it, then go and change it. Change whatever it is that you can in regards to that particular situation that has triggered that thought so that you take action, so that you take, ownership of that specific situation. If you can't change it, which if it is a past-based thought, let's be real, you won't be able to because it's something that has been and done, then what I'm going to encourage you to do is simply shift your focus to what it is that you can do right here, right now. Now, let me break that down a little bit more so that you can better understand what I'm asking you to do. Let's say your thought is something like mine. If only I had carried Olivia to full term. Can I change that? Can I change that particular scenario? The answer is no. Olivia is 9 years old. I cannot rewind the clock to 9 years ago, put her back up inside my tummy and hold on to her for another 4 weeks. I can't carry her to full term. So what can I do in that instance? I can look at what I can focus on right now, and that is I've got a beautiful 9-year-old girl and I'm supporting her the best I can now. All of those regrets from the past are not serving you. All they are doing is triggering and then holding you into a space of guilt. So what we're going to do is identify those thoughts, and then we're going to bring it back to, can you change it, yes or no? If you can, change it. If you can't, change your focus. Now, that is for past-based guilt. If, however, you have thoughts that are more future-based, so again, let's use Bree's example to sort of demonstrate the point. Are we getting enough support for her now so she grows up to be a happy and healthy adult? Are we giving her the best opportunities in life now? Am I doing enough? Ultimately, this line of thinking is always going to come back down to, if we break it back down to the absolute baseline, it's almost always going to come down to, are you doing enough for them right now? And again, I want you to ask yourself this question. Can you accurately predict the fear or the what if that you are projecting? If you can accurately predict it, if you know without any shadow of a doubt that your action right now is going to lead to that particular fear becoming a reality, then make a change to accommodate that so that that does not become your reality. So in this example, am I doing enough to support Olivia so she becomes a happy and healthy adult? If I can predict that what I'm doing is going to cause her future anxieties now, then what would I do? What could I change to prevent those future anxieties from showing up? Now, again, it's a bit of a trick question because we can't predict what's going to happen. We can't predict what we're doing right now as to how that's going to play out in the future and what kind of reality that's going to bring through. So the real answer to that question is no, I can't accurately predict that what I'm doing in regards to supporting Olivia now is or is not going to be reason for future anxieties. I can't accurately predict that that's going to happen. So what can I do instead? I can make an educated decision based on what I know right now and follow my gut and hope that what we are doing is going to create a great, happy, healthy life for her in the future without anxiety. I hope that this is making sense because ultimately what I want you to start seeing in lines of or in regards of your head talk when it's instigating guilt is that the thought is often driving guilt when the thought is out of your control. When the outcome or the action is something that you have no control over, the result is going to be you feeling more and more guilty. So instead of allowing those thought patterns to continue, change your focus to what you can control right now. Because when we keep our focus on those things that we can control right now, when we can make decisions based on the fact that we are always doing the very best that we can right now, then the need for guilt to arise will lessen. It's simple as that. And I know for some of you who are really struggling with guilt, if it's a big, heavy shadow cloud that just follows you everywhere, then this is going to seem a very difficult task for you to undertake. However, you can start breaking down the impact that guilt has on your life by simplifying your thought processes out. Can you change it, yes or no? If you can change it, change it. If you can't, refocus to what you can control. Can you predict what your actions are going to play out into in the future? Yes or no? If you can accurately predict them, then change your action today to prevent those things from playing out the way that you fear they will. If you can't accurately predict it, then make an educated decision based on what you do know for the here and now, and then keep an eye on it. Now, the other part of guilt that I wanted to quickly address before I close this episode down, and this has become a longer episode than what I was expecting, but the other crippling factor of guilt that I see play out way too often in women's lives is they want to do something for themselves, but the guilt of letting someone else down or of causing conflict or causing challenge or causing drama in someone else's life prevents them from doing that. And again, I'm going to use myself as an example because it's easier for me to do that. It makes it much more easier for me to own it. I have been doing a lot of traveling this year. And for the rest of the year, I have a lot of travel to come. Next year, I'm probably going to do quite a lot of travel as well because of the roles that I'm undertaking with the different organisations that I work with. I personally love that. It fulfills me. It lights me up. It excites me. It makes me feel like I'm living my purpose. However, for a lot of women in similar situations, that could be a recipe for guilt. How often have you wanted to do something for yourself, but you haven't because guilt has gotten in the way? And this is what I mean by guilt being crippling. Because too often we allow guilt or this perception of guilt to dictate what we do or do not do as women. So if you recognize that you allow guilt to stop you from doing what it is that you really want to do, if there is a course that you want to do that you've been thinking about and eyeing off and you've been inspired by it, but you stop yourself from doing it because you feel guilty about spending money on yourself, then this next part is for you. If there is a holiday or a girls' weekend or some special event that you want to go to, but you keep holding yourself back because you don't want to let the kids down or you don't want to cause your children or your family a little bit of heartache because you're going to be gone and away from the house for a few days, then this message is for you. If there is something that you really want to do in your life, but the fear that you'll let someone else down as a result of that action is holding you back into the safe zone, then this is for you. I want you to ask yourself these questions. Would this activity that you so deeply want to do or undertake, would the actioning and the achieving of that particular activity bring you a sense of joy or happiness or excitement? If the answer is yes, I'm going to encourage you to give yourself permission to do it. If the answer is no, then maybe it's not guilt that's holding you back. Maybe it's your intuition saying, sweetheart, this is not for you right now. And again, that's okay. Don't do it. The second part of this question is if you were to undertake that particular thing, if you were to do that course or go on that weekend or, be involved in that event that you really want to participate in, is it going to serve your highest good? And as a ripple effect, will it serve those people around you? If you go and do that course and it allows you to be more empowered, more educated, open up doors in terms of career opportunities or business opportunities, if it allows you to be a better mum, a better partner, a better friend, is that going to serve you? And in turn, is that going to serve those around you? And if the answer is yes, then sweetheart, give yourself permission to do it. If undertaking that course, if going away for a weekend so that you can recharge your batteries is going to serve your higher good, and in turn, those recharged batteries are going to help you to be more present, more connected with the people that you love, then give yourself permission to do it. You can talk yourself out of anything, and quite often, guilt is the very thing that makes you talk yourself out of it. Guilt to spend time on yourself, guilt to invest in yourself financially, guilt to put yourself first is the thing that holds you back. But if that action serves you, if it inspires you, if it excites you, then guilt should be the very last thing that holds you back, because the cost of that guilt is robbing you and therefore everyone around you from being your best you. But if you were to just look guilt in the eye and say, no, I am giving myself permission to do this because one, it brings me joy or excitement or it inspires me, and two, it serves me and those people around me, then darling, give yourself permission and go chase that thing that you want. Because that is the only way that you're going to start to see guilt for what it really is. And that is just a misperception of the current situation based on future fears or past regrets. Bring it back to the simplest of simplest terms. Will this action make you happy, yes or no? If it's a yes, do it. Will it serve you and your higher good and those around you, yes or no? Then do it. If you can change the past, change it. If you can't, focus on what you can change. If you cannot predict the future, focus on what you can decide based on what you know right now and be open to change. Because ultimately, we only know what we know today, and we don't know what we're going to know tomorrow. And tomorrow, if a better option comes up, then guess what? We can change our minds. I hope that you've enjoyed this particular episode on guilt. It's actually taken me a number of times to record this particular episode because every time I'd start talking, my ideas on guilt would clarify and crystallize, and I just got more and more excited. So I sort of stopped and restarted. But hopefully these 3 avenues of guilt have given you food for thought. And if you are recognizing that guilt is ultimately holding you back from living your best life, from being your best you, and from being everything that you want to be for everyone who is important to you, then I cannot encourage you any more than by telling you that you are the only one who can change it. Guilt does not need to dictate your thoughts, nor does it need to dictate your actions. When you are ready to release the guilt, when you are really ready to elevate, then please reach out. Because I know without a shadow of a doubt that when you are ready, I can help you. You have a fantastic week, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye now.